Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Pete, pull yourself away from your plate of gourmet food and let's get serious about the official Films and Stuff movie working title, Vessel.
That's right, Ethan. And don't forget the S. The two S's in Vessel are actually the numbers 55. So it's Ve55el, and whatever ship it is going to be like, I don't know, the USS something 55 or something like that. The 1955.
1955. So this is just our little passion project. It's not really even an episode, but, well, it's an episode, but of our passion project. I can't remember where the idea even came from, but we basically had a working plot of a movie, and now we're just going to take some time and try to workshop it a little bit more.
Yeah. So the idea came up after we saw Ambulance.
Oh, yeah.
Where we were talking about Michael Bay's latest movie, right? And the point is that Michael Bay makes all these crazy, crazy movies. You see beautiful drone shots. You see chase sequences. Tons of explosions, scantily clad women and models, all these super handsome young men, and he's basically, he's the director that everyone thinks of who made the Transformers franchise and kind of made Will Smith famous in Bad Boys back in the 90s.
Bad Boys for life. Yep.
And I think the genesis of this idea was the fact that, we were joking about the fact that he's done everything with drones. He's done stuff like with car chases and car sequences. And the one thing we haven't seen is really like a sequence on the ocean. We've seen stuff with Top Gun with the air. Yep. We've seen Fast and the Furious with cars. And we thought, man, if there's one guy who loves the U.S. military or armed forces more than anyone else, it's got to be Michael Bay, right? He makes all these super patriotic July 4th summer blockbuster movies. And we thought, hey, what if we did that and combined that with the ocean?
I'm in. We are in. Our working title is Vessel. And let's just make some ground rules. Mm-hmm. Or at least I only have one. Everything is being workshopped. Nothing's taken personally. Let's just come up with the best product. I think Vessel is not bad, but I can't say that I'm 100% sold on that.
Neither
I think it's
am
a working title
I'm
right
with
now.
You. I'm 100% with you.
And the only other considerations I think when we do this is that we need to have something that is kind of going to be reasonably cost effective, and so it gets greenlit, and something that has some potential for a sequel and trequel. What's four? Quequel?
Quadrilogy.
Oh yeah, trilogy. So those are I think the only guidelines that we have to do. So the way that we started workshopping this was we said that we even took out the old Google map, right?
Oh yeah.
We started looking at, we thought this should be based in basically the Pacific Ocean. And ultimately, I think we kind of wanted to end up in Hawaii, just because it's got some glitz and glamour, and we need to have some land-based
shenanigans.
Shenanigans. So we were kind of thinking that this would start on a U.S. naval base, Guam, or any of these other kind of territorial islands that we saw on the map. And we even kind of identified how long it would take different boats or vessels to get from there to Hawaii. And they're all kind of within 24 to 36 hours based on kind of ocean conditions and fuel capacity and things like that. So that's all realistic. And I guess my working idea, and you tell me where we can tighten this up, is that we had I thought it should be a nuclear submarine that was somehow damaged. And then it went to this, U.S. naval base for some type of repair. It couldn't be repaired there. And because maybe there was a storm or something else, it had to be moved. And the way that it would be moved, as you mentioned, that there would be a tugboat that would be pulling it from like a steel cable. And because of kind of the protocol for such a nuclear submarine, there would also be like a destroyer that would go alongside of it. So we've already got 3 ships or 3 vehicles, right? 2 are propelling themselves. 1 is being dragged along. So we're able to, right now, we would have a scene on the military base. We would have then different scenes within the sub where there's probably like a skeleton crew now, kind of within the command center of the tugboat, within the command center of the battleship, a bunch of aerial shots and so forth. Right now, it seems we're in budget.
All right. Let me crack my fingers and let's get out of this budget real quick.
All right. Yeah.
So
let's send it to the numbers guy.
Yeah. I love this premise. My feeling is that instead of the submarine being damaged, what if we say the submarine is going in for being upgraded or for something that, because if you introduce that the submarine is already damaged, my feeling is that you start creating a sense of urgency early. And whereas what could be an interesting thing is to say that, look, we're retrofitting this submarine with a new nuclear engine or, with upgraded torpedoes or, a sonar system, whatever. It can operate for the first, or maybe it's damaged in a very minor way or in a very superfluous way, which is to say, its propeller got broken up. It was participating in naval exercises in the South China Sea. And, it got damaged during those exercises and needs to be towed. But because it's a nuclear sub, as you rightly pointed out, the protocol is that a destroyer has to accompany it.
Yeah.
And that's
Shepherd it.
And we're introduced so that the act, if we're talking about a 3-act structure. So the first act is really about introducing the submarine, introducing the impetus as to why it's, being taken to this dry dock or to this dock. And maybe it's because it's too old, or maybe it's because it's slightly damaged, whatever it is.
But let me just interject one thing, because this is what we do on this podcast is we really break down kind of the premise. What would be realistic to you? Like, is it to be damaged? It's not damaged in a battle.
Yeah.
Does it back up into something? Does something fall onto it?
For me, actually, what would be the most realistic would be to say that it is one of the oldest submarines still running on diesel generators, and it's being decommissioned.
Okay.
And
but why isn't it? I'm with you on this. That's good. But where is the towing element coming from? Why can't it just go on its own power?
So that's the thing. It's getting towed because it relies on diesel, and it's the last diesel sub that the U.S. Navy has, and the engine goes kaput. So it's decided that it's going to be decommissioned. It's, at the end of its life. We took it out there for the exercises because it's the only ship that the U.S. Navy has, or it's the only sub that's still the same level of technology that other countries use.
So there's like some war games.
Yes, exactly.
And it's kind of like the decoy. And they said, "Hey, let's get this guy out there."
Let's pretend like this is a North Korean sub, because that's the tech that the North Koreans have access to.
Yeah, but this isn't something that we actually want. Like making a solo trip. It's been at this naval base for a long time, just kind of sitting there. We used it for a war game. We don't want to keep it there anymore. It's time to pull it back to Honolulu.
Yeah, let's
Harbor.
take it to Honolulu Harbor. Let's put it in a dry dock. Let's put it in as a museum.
I think right now we've got something that's kind of plausible. Okay.
Right?
Now we get
And so because it's got a very, very, very minimal skeleton crew on it. And, it's got like maybe instead of 150 seamen on there, there's only like 15 guys on there, because It's chugging along. It doesn't really require much work or constant due diligence. And at the same time, you've got the destroyer that's accompanying it.
Yeah.
And what I think, and then, so that's the first half of Act 1. And we're also introduced to the bad guys. Whatever the bad guys are. And this is, this is something I think we need to workshop. We need to meet the guys who want access or who want this submarine for a plausible reason.
So I guess this is where you and I need to workshop things, because my view was that we've seen kind of this trope so many times where there's this kind of like anonymous terrorist organization. And I feel like stealing a nuclear sub is a big deal. That's why I was kind of considering that this would be like an accidental thing. Like they become mixed up in this.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
So fast forward to what my thought was. My thought was always that somehow, again, this is just like speaking out loud, that somehow there was like bad weather and that they saw like this big mega yacht and they said, hey, we're commandeering you. We need you to start pulling this sub and make it go faster. This bad weather storm is approaching. I don't think this works now that I'm saying it out loud, but kind of like they were working on the yacht. Somehow the yacht took the sub by itself. And when pirates hijacked the yacht, they got more than they bargained for because they realized this yacht that they now took is towing a U.S. nuclear sub. And they've kind of unexpectedly got more than they bargained for. The way that I said it doesn't really work. We need to tighten it up a little bit. But I just feel a little bit queasy. Talk me out of it. I'm open to it. But I feel a little bit queasy about one of these things like, well, this kind of Spectre type terrorist organizations got this plot and they're going to take out the destroyer and they're going to overtake the tugboat and then they're going to steal the U.S. nuclear sub. And the whole thing to me seems like there's so many like trackers and other things that this is going to be like easily disrupted and it's not going to go anywhere. Talk me out of it if you can.
On that, I get it, because I think we've all seen the shadowy organization one time too many. It's a common trope in these kinds of movies, or like in the James Bond franchise, and it's kind of been run to the ground. Having said that, you do need a plausible bad guy, or you do want a plausible bad guy who wants to do something credible with that sub, to justify stealing that sub, rather than the yacht that's pulling a sub. And what I was thinking was whoever the bad guy is, and at the moment, in my mind, it's nebulous as well, in the sense that, is it a rogue organization within the U.S. military?
Or an inside job.
Is it a rogue organization within the U.S. military? Is it a terrorist cell operating out of, China or the Philippines or even Australia, which would be another crazy blow, right? It would be a unique twist to see an ally country that's actually not an ally country in some way. And their idea is to take the ship or commandeer the submarine and blow it up with the nuclear payloads that's already on the ship in Hawaii, to create some kind of message or something. I don't know. All right. And then the idea is that explosion kind of sets off a tsunami which drowns half of Hawaii.
I like the tsunami. What do you think of the inside job idea?
The inside job idea is good. It harkens back a little bit to The Rock, which is to say which I am a big fan of, and also
I'm big on The Rock.
Also a Michael Bay movie.
Michael Bay is a big fan of.
The question is that overused? And most importantly,
what's the motivation?
What are they holding the U.S. hostage for? Is it for healthcare benefits? Is it for money, which I think is not a great motivation? What is the reason they're doing it?
I mean, money seems like the easiest motivation, right? I mean, the most believable motivation, which is you've got this decommissioned sub that maybe it's like off the books, right? It doesn't really, I mean, I'm speaking at a high level here. It doesn't really have a serial number because it's been used for war games. It's not really entered into the inventory. It's just supposed to be taken to Honolulu and, like you said, used as kind of like a museum piece. Maybe they don't think they need to steal the whole thing. They just need to take kind of like the nuclear propulsion system. No one's really going to know. Like, they should have kind of like disassembled it and decommissioned it, but instead they haven't actually done that, unbeknownst to the team that's kind of like shepherding it to Honolulu, and instead they're like, hey, we're just going to now sell it
because
to this.
It got hurt or damaged somehow in this war game, and it's being tugged. It's being accompanied by by a destroyer for security purposes, because they need to take it to a full U.S. base in the States, not in a territory, so that they can unload the nuclear missiles or torpedoes that are on the ship. And then what happens is, in the second act or at the end of the first act, there is a weather storm of some sort, and that causes a timer to count down, right? Whether that means that the hull is exposed or whether one of the cores is exposed, they need to get it there fast. But if they move it too fast, it explodes. This is now more like speed.
Yeah, I like the element of speed. Can I throw something out there? You tell me if there's anything to this. What if, The Rock was based on, ostensibly, the fact that American soldiers killed in battle weren't given the proper amount of benefits or recognition for their sacrifice. What if this is something similar to that, which is like, rather than going the nuclear route, which again, we've kind of seen before, and that seems complicated to pull off. It's, hey, you know what? We actually want to sink this thing and make it like this big high-profile event.
And maybe what they want to do is they want to claim that, we're doing this for the military veterans, but really they're just going to sell it to the highest bidder and go to the Bahamas and buy an island. Like, that's the subplot within. So you have a group of terrorists, but you have a division of the group of terrorists. So the terrorists think that they're doing something noble, but the real terrorists are like, no, we're actually selling this ship and we're going to make billions off of it.
Or it's what if it's a false flag?
Yeah.
What if, because I'm thinking like the money is just kind of like,
That's what I'm saying. It's a little blasé. It's doable, but it's a little
the Cayman
blasé.
bank account. You're gonna see, like, what if it's a false flag? They're like, you know what?
What if the Navy's like, our budget got cut 3% this year?
Yes.
We need to create a terrorist group and blame it on them.
Oh, see, this is good. Now we're getting somewhere.
Now we're thinking.
Because
now we're thinking.
Right, they say like, hey, we've seen this in so many military airplane movies where it's like, hey, all we're doing is these like reconnaissance missions. We're not getting involved. We're not getting our hands dirty. We're seeing all these problems. We need to take some action. The only way we can take some action is if we feel as though we've been attacked. Now that we've got to move this decommissioned sub, let's do a false flag, pretend that we've been attacked. We'll be the heroes because we somehow survived, and we'll be able to tell.
And we'll get Congress to give us an extra $1 billion or $10 billion in funding, whatever the number is.
I'm a 4-star admiral. I haven't been promoted because I've never been in combat. This is my big opportunity.
So that's all introduced in, that's wonderful. So but here's what I think we should do. Is that's the reveal that comes out to us at the end of Act 2, at the beginning of Act 3.
We think it's a real attack. We think it's a legitimate attack.
That's right. So in Act 1, we are introduced to terrorists. And these terrorists are actually hired by the Navy. Unbeknownst to the terrorists, they're stealing a ship that's got nuclear missiles on it. And the Navy knows about it, or certain elements in the Navy knows about it. But we only find out about that in Act 3. And so that's good. That's really good. So Act 1, we get introduced to the sub. We get introduced to the fact that it's being towed home. We get introduced to the fact that it's being decommissioned. We get introduced to these terrorists who are going to steal the sub for whatever cause they have for themselves. Act 2 some weather system causes the sub to get damaged. And so the sub we're on a timer to get it back into base before it explodes. And so the U.S. Navy, and the pirates have to, or the terrorists have to get to it. Let's see, how does that work? How does this work in Act 2?
So
because I like the element of having, a sense of urgency, right? Why are they urgent? Because if we don't get the ship back, or if we don't get the sub back into our base within 36 hours, the whole thing explodes.
I like that, but how does that really work? Because I'm feeling like subs are not like so delicate that they're...
Yeah, but it's being towed. It's not underwater. It's above water the whole time.
I'm not sure. But can I go on the false flag part a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Because I know this is not the right way to do it, but I really feel like we need a yacht. We really need a yacht. We need it for a few reasons. One, we need a big space, and we need
container ship as well,
and a container ship. So what if these pirates, quote unquote, are hired to? Because it's not easy to get. I don't know how you find pirates, right? You just don't go on like Craigslist or something like. But
yeah.
if instead you would hire them to, like you said, take a container ship or take a yacht and say, hey, like maybe a senator needs to be involved, right? And it needs to be kind of like the senator's yacht off of Honolulu. And you need to say like, hey, this yacht's an easy target. You take the yacht. And after the false flag, we're combining a lot of different elements here, but I feel like...
Yeah, it's not Michael Bay. It's too Michael Bay. It's not Michael Bay if we make it more complicated than it needs to be.
True.
But what does make it Michael Bay is by having a yacht and a container ship on there, you create the opportunity for some excellent visuals.
Yeah. These are the set
right?
pieces
and
we're
so
building around.
Maybe the destroyer doesn't know about this being a false flag, so they're on the up and up, and the terrorists have set up their base of operations within this container ship that's disguised to be a container ship, but really it's got like missile batteries and it's got like machine gun turrets and nests all around it. And the vessel and the destroyer has to go save the day, and then all of a sudden this container ship comes off of its shipping route, and like you see containers fall off the ship, and you see missiles coming flying out and starts attacking the vessel, the destroyer.
Okay, can I maybe let me think of something. So it's going to be a false flag, right? So you've got the tug pulling the sub, and it's flanked by a very small battleship, right? Not this huge thing, but something, right? With a gun on it.
Yeah.
What if, so the sub is not working, right? The sub is not going. It needs something to pull it. It's been decommissioned, or it's just not operating, right? What if they just open the torpedo tubes and they just shoot the battleship themselves? They sink the battleship.
And then?
Okay.
Or why would they do that?
Well, this is a false flag, right? They're trying to show that there is an attack.
Oh, so the subs commanders are in on this false flag.
Yeah, there's right. I mean, that's who he said it's a fault, right? They're trying to get more funding, right? So they shoot their missiles or their torpedoes at the ship itself. So they take down the destroyer, but in the firefight, somehow the tug is damaged. And that's how they have to change their course. They have to get to the container ship, or if they send like an SOS to the container ship, and then they reattach that's how they get involved in the container ship. Does that work?
And is the container ship still pirates? Because where are the pirates or terrorists coming in on this?
Do we need pirates if we've got this false flag?
Yeah.
Where's our good guys?
The reason it works, no, but I understand. You need the beauty, the idea of the false flag is you need to pin it on someone, right?
Yeah.
So who are you pinning this on? You need to have a group of bad guys that are bad guys anyway, but they're they're unknowingly helping the guys who are creating this false flag. Like, who do you pin this act of sabotage on? So my thinking is, and I like this angle of this senator.
Yeah.
Well, we have this rogue senator who's on like the defense committee.
Yeah.
who's consistently like unable to raise funding to the Navy because he's an ex-Navy man himself. He's a retired 4-star admiral who joins politics. And he's, he clandestinely funds this small rogue terrorist group.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets the crew of the ship to attack the destroyer. Destroyer goes down. Fine with you. I'm with you there.
The small group comes in on like the little black skiffs or something, right?
On their ribs, that's right.
They take, on the ribs, they take over the tugboat. That's easy, right?
Yep, because it's a tugboat. And the tugboat, exactly. Go on.
And then they've got control of the sub. Where do we go from here?
So now they've got control of the sub. Now they've got control of the sub. So this is where we have to come up with, if this is the case, you have to have like a ragtag group of good guys who saved the day at the last possible minute.
I mean, shouldn't it be the good guys would...
What if there are good guys on the ship, on the sub, and they have to do like and they have to take back the sub tugboat?
I think that's right. I think the good guys have to be on the sub, and they're caught in the middle of this, and like
we're sitting on this this decommissioned submarine. We're a skeleton crew of only 15 people. How do we take back the tugboat so that we gain propulsive control?
Yeah.
And how do we jury rig some weapons so that we can take out this container ship, which is their base of operations?
So I guess if the ribs come in, right? So the tug is sunk.
Or not sunk, but at least taken over and captured.
Yeah. And then basically in order to avoid detection, they put the sub underneath, then they take over the container ship, which like you said is their base of operation. They put the sub underneath the container ship.
This is like down periscope. They put them underneath the screws.
Yes.
And so that the sonar signal is scrambled.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they've just lost a submarine which has nuclear torpedoes on it.
Yeah. And so unbeknownst, does the team on the tug and on the destroyer know that there's people inside the sub? Do our bad guys know?
That's the thing. I think what you have is like this grizzled old ex-Navy guy on the tug, and he has to somehow alert the good guys who are on the ship, but because the ship is now underwater and he doesn't have access to a radio, he can't get to them or he can't communicate with them. Mm-hmm. So it becomes kind of like Die Hard on a submarine and Die Hard on a tugboat.
That is definitely a pitch. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think when you say Die Hard on a sub, that's a very good elevator pitch.
Right. And so
if your elevator is going one floor, that's the pitch that you need. Die Hard on a sub.
So we have two groups of guys. You've got one guy who's on the sub, who's hidden away in the tugboat, who's trying to take control of it. Then you've got one guy who's on, or not one guy, but like one small skeleton crew on the submarine. And the submarine is now underneath the container ship. And, these guys have built like a moon pool and are going into the submarine, cutting a hole in the submarine so that they can start withdrawing the torpedoes. Yeah. And unbeknownst, and the pirates are unaware that this is happening. And if you want to have your yacht in there, the senator is actually on the yacht overseeing the whole operation from a distance, pretending like he's on a sailing holiday.
And the missiles are going to be delivered to him.
Somehow. That's right. And he would clear any Coast Guard inspection or anything like that because he's a U.S. senator and ex-Navy man.
That's not bad. Actually, that's not bad.
Right? So they're going to transfer the torpedoes to him and he can get away with it because why would a sitting senator want to damage or destroy the U.S.?
I'm okay with all of this. I think we've got something cooking, but I'm still a little bit fuzzy on, like, our bad guys should know that there's good guys in the sub, right? How that's the part that's kind of like,
Well, they figure it out when they send a crew and the crew doesn't return back, right? Or they put the radio, they radio the guys and they can't because now the good guys have a radio and guns.
I'm thinking hear me out on this. What if the alternative is that the good guys are on the tug, right? The bad guys are on the sub. The sub takes out the destroyer. The sub and the ribs take out the tug, right? And then the ribs attach the sub to the container ship, and the guys from the tug kind of survive, radio SOS to the yacht, and the yacht comes to pick them up. They take over the yacht, and the yacht is chasing the shipping container.
So the yacht's full of good guys now?
Yeah.
Interesting. In terms of visuals, very good to see a yacht take on a container ship.
Yeah.
I think that's it would be a very unique position.
Yeah. But here's the issue. What are they racing towards, right? Now we've lost a little bit of the plot of what's the deal getting to Hawaii, to Honolulu? Like, what's that angle? Is it just the ship? Is it just like, I don't think there's a port. And it's like, hey, once those shipping containers get to the port, we're going to lose track of them forever.
Oh, yeah, it could be that.
But then it's not really Honolulu. Then it's more like Hong Kong, possibly. Maybe we go west.
Or Singapore.
Yeah, maybe we go west. Or like, hey, once those get to...
Well, let's think about it. It could be Japan because they've got a great U.S. naval presence there. It could be Philippines. They've got a U.S. naval presence there.
Yeah.
And also then you can have more like local representation of the quote unquote bad guys that aren't actually the bad guys. They're hired by the real bad guys.
Yeah.
You go Indonesia. Also a strong
maybe
country.
Indonesia, because I'm thinking like there has to be a race. And I feel like the race is, hey, now that sub, they've got the sub under the container ship. Everyone thinks that the sub has been sunk along with the destroyer and that we're dead. We're the only people that can follow this and know where it's going. If those missiles get offloaded in a port, we'll never be able to track.
We'll lose them forever.
Yeah.
We'll lose them forever.
Yeah.
So the original pitch I had was the idea was that
we were talking about weather originally.
We had originally talked about weather damaging the submarine and creating that sense of urgency, right? Because it had like a cracked or exposed nuclear core.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get to a base and is taken care of, it's going to explode and do untold damage to the marine life around it. Something like that, right?
Do we find that compelling though? Because I kind of like that as well. But my two concerns, I'm not sure if these are concerns, but let me just raise them and you tell me what you think. Weather is kind of like not that exciting. We've seen like so many tornado and disaster movies. Is this weather timing really going to be, we know how it's going to end. Are we really that worried about it?
It's not that. I thought that the weather could also be a great mask for actually boarding the submarine or for boarding the destroyer. Like it's timed in such a way that they attack when it's least expected. So if you have a thunderstorm in the middle of the ocean or a hurricane in the middle of the ocean, like everyone's at ease at the fact that, well, no one's ever going to attack us at this point. My thought was initially when we first talked about it was that on the tugboat, there's a lone crewman who manages to kind of board the yacht that's still controlled by the bad guys, right? And the idea is that what he does is, and this is very Michael Bay, he plants a homing signal or like an infrared laser device so that it can be tracked and so that at the end of the movie, like 2 F-18s or F-35s fly out of this base at the last possible second to stop the yacht from ramming into a friendly port and blowing it up.
Well, maybe that's the false flag. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe the false flag is that they want to actually like do some damage, another Honolulu damage, or maybe they want to do
like another Pearl Harbor or something like that.
That's not bad.
And they do this on like the 50th anniversary,
Yes.
the 55th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, or whatever the number actually is.
Maybe that's not bad, is that it's not a smuggling mission. But you've already have an attack on the destroyer, right? That would kind of be enough.
So we don't need the attack on the destroyer then.
Yeah.
Right? Or what we say is they try to attack the destroyer, but they just disable it, preventing the destroyer from actually helping in the stealing of the warheads.
Your idea to have that destroyer to escort the sub, I think, is a very good idea. Unless we don't need the tug. Maybe the sub just goes by itself.
I like the idea of having the tug because what you do is you can put the one lone guy. That becomes like the C plot where you have the one lone guy on that tug who's able to hide from the pirates but not take them out. And then he kind of is the clandestine man on the ground or the man on the inside who's kind of relaying with the good guys one way or another.
I mean, I see that as well. I'm not fully convinced I would be that excited by that, though. Only because we've seen more than one submarine movie. And submarines are just kind of like, not that visually like.
No, man, but Die Hard on a submarine. He could hide. Imagine instead of hiding in an air vent, he hides in a torpedo tube.
Yeah. Actually, that's powerful, is going through the torpedo tubes.
There's a lot we can do with it. I think where we're getting stuck is on the fact
What's the mission? We're getting stuck on the mission.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Ultimately, if this is going to be a Michael Bay movie, we can't have it be complicated. It has to be super simple. It has to not. Look at all of his movies. He doesn't do anything complicated. He doesn't have a third plot. He doesn't have a second plot. And it's usually the most boring and bland and blasé of motives. I want better military rights or for veterans. I want money in ambulance. Or I want to capture. I'm a police officer and I want to stop the drug lord from winning. It's not the most shocking or unique of storylines. I love the idea of a false flag, and I love the idea that the false flag is good enough for Michael Bay.
Yeah.
That it's just a guy who's trying to raise money for the army.
Yeah.
Or his budget.
I don't want to get too caught up on this because it's a problem that doesn't have a solution. But I mean, it's kind of a different era in cinema green lighting, I feel. Like he had a long absence before he got Ambulance, and Ambulance, despite a lot of like flash, is not a terribly expensive movie maybe to make.
Not at all.
So I'm a little bit hesitant if this genre is going to fit.
You need one. Look, if we're going to be a bean counters about this, you need one submarine.
Yeah.
You need one tugboat.
Yeah.
You need one container ship.
Yeah.
One yacht.
Yeah.
And one destroyer.
Yeah.
You need 5 boats. Really, to effectively make this movie, you need 5 vessels.
Let's help me with the mission. We know that there's a false flag, but the false flag is the attack on the tug or on the destroyer, or the attack on Honolulu, or an attack to the west. What's the end game for the bad guys?
I think the end game for the bad guys is let's blow up a harbor in Honolulu. Let's do Pearl Harbor 2.
Okay. I think Honolulu is good because I think visually
great. You can get these amazing views of the beach, of the harbor, of all of it. I think it's probably one of the best.
Yeah. And so they want to take the nuclear sub and they want to somehow like implode the missiles in Honolulu.
Prime it so that it explodes in the harbor.
Okay. So they just need to steal the sub. The sub is automatically going there, or should the sub be going somewhere else?
Maybe we say the sub is going somewhere else. Maybe we say it's going there. We don't know. We just need it to be commandeered. It could be, it could just be that it's going back to Pearl Harbor for exactly the same reasons. It's going there to be decommissioned.
What if it was going from like 2 unknown Pacific islands, and that's when it was stolen, and it was going towards Pearl Harbor?
Absolutely. It could be that it was in the middle of the war games, and during the middle of the war games, it gets taken out.
It sounds a lot like Hunt for. I mean, do we want the?
It does sound a little bit like that, but in the sense that Hunt for Red October was about a guy defecting and being chased by his own men, whereas here we're talking about someone who's actively grand theft submarine. And to use that to blow up Pearl Harbor or to blow up Hawaii.
We've got something, but there's still a few gaps.
It's missing an X factor. I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's something that may not be clicking 100% right now, and that's why we need you, readers and listeners. Mostly listeners. Aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. What are we missing? What is that X factor that makes this movie something you would want to watch in the cinema? At F&S Podcast on Twitter, you can reach out and let us know what you think is the right way to go.
I think you're onto something very interesting. So if we would say, look, the sub has to move from one location to another for like repairs, decommissioned, whatever, and kind of like the container ship hovers over it. It's got kind of this, the container ship, kind of has like this hollowed out hull with like this, like pool inside of it, right?
Yeah, the moon pool.
Yeah,
that's right.
The moon pool. The sub comes up, and the sub has a skeleton crew that says, here, take off the 10 missiles. We'll continue on to the place. Now you guys get these to Honolulu. That handoff, I think, is very kind of sinister and, could be interesting.
So the sub guys are in on it.
Yeah.
But the tugboat guy isn't. And then the tugboat is maybe, I don't know, disabled, or it's, taken out of action by the sub.
Well, that could be it, right? It could be pulling the sub, and suddenly the sub, fires up its engines.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, what the flip? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it kind of, and to avoid, and to save itself from being pulled underneath, because the sub is so much more powerful.
Yeah. It cuts loose.
It has to disconnect.
Yeah.
It has to cut loose.
The sub, yeah.
And then it becomes the tugboat who's the genuine good guy.
Yeah.
Against this pseudo false flag mission that's going on.
So the sub,
he's able to track them.
Yeah.
He figures out, oh, what if it's this container ship? He's sitting there with like his 3 guys on the crew in the tugboat. They're trying to figure out where the sub could be, what's going on. And then they start piecing together things, and they realize that, oh my God, this thing could go south real quick. And and that's when they figure out the container ship has got the missiles now. And so they have to do a mission where they're kind of tailing the container ship or chasing after the container ship. That's an element of time, right?
But how? So what's the sub's end game, right? The sub wants to get the missiles off without. And then
maybe the sub's game, the end game for the sub is over there. Then it becomes a container ship chase.
But if the sub was going to do that, the sub could just go to Honolulu itself and just shoot at the.
Yeah, that's actually that. Actually, you know what? That's the number. That's good catch. That's the biggest plot hole right there.
So the sub has to be decommissioned, right? The sub cannot be moving somehow, and that's the reason why the missiles need to be offloaded. Which means the container ship needs to ram.
Unless they take the submarine, and while the sub is in the moon pool, they put together an engineering team and fix the sub, take out 9 of the 10 missiles, and keep 1 missile on the sub, and the sub continues on. And the idea is that the sub is going to blow it up. And that's the false flag, in that not only has the sub blown up, but they think all the warheads are gone.
Yeah.
But the reality is that 9 are still with the container ship.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Is that they've got to somehow get rid of the evidence right? Because the sub and whatever is escorting it can easily be tracked, right? So they need to obviously commandeer it when it's most vulnerable, which is in the ocean. So the guys on the right and the guys then on the destroyer have to somehow like sabotage their own destroyer.
It becomes and then it becomes a two-person race, right? The destroyer has to chase after the submarine or after the container ship, and the tugboat has to chase after the other one, because the submarine is still going to continue and blow up Honolulu, and the container ship has to be taken out because the container ship has the 9 missiles on there.
So then I feel like the crew on the tug, realizing what happens, has to have their own rib. And they escape on the rib. And they see the yacht in the distance. They get to the yacht. They take over the yacht. And they're like, we got to chase that container ship.
We got to chase that container ship. And then you have that visual of the yacht chasing the container ship. And the idea is that they inform everyone using their, ham radios or whatever.
Yeah.
And the idea is that there are no other destroyers because they're all in the Pacific doing the war games.
Yeah.
So none of the U.S. Navy ships can get to them in time.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the yacht has to get close enough
the yacht,
to the ship.
So this is where where our set piece comes, is that the yacht, faster than the container ship, catches up to the container ship, rams it. You see the visual of all the containers falling into...
Containers falling, missiles coming at them, and then finally in an act of Nick Cage trying to blow himself up at the end of The Rock, they let off some flares off of the yacht. Or they put it like an infrared beacon like in Top Gun. And then at the end of the movie, you see 2 F-35s fly out from Honolulu and destroy the container ship and blow it up. And, everyone on the yacht just flies off in the last second. And at the same time, meanwhile, the naval destroyer is chasing the rogue submarine. And we have to work out how they're able to track them and do that. But at the very last second, you see that the timer is going off on the submarine, inside the submarine, as the warhead is about to go off. But they sink the submarine in the last possible second, so it becomes an underwater explosion, and then everyone is safe.
Yeah, at some point the sub has to sink. What I said is, to have the sequel, the sub has to sink because the sequel has to be to save the sub, right?
Or plunder it.
Yeah. Plunder it. I like our set pieces, but I have to say our plot is still a little bit...
Yeah, but then, that's also kind of a typical Michael Bay thing, which is, I think he does what we're doing, which is, let's build the set pieces, and then let's kind of loosely fabricate a plot and thread it through it.
Yeah, I like that we really agree on the container ship. I'm so passionate about having a yacht, but I'm more passionate about having a yacht because I feel like also we need more people. The
yacht can have some, it could be like a party yacht from some
the yacht's got to be.
It could be like a sheikh from the Middle East, a faceless sheikh from the Middle East, or some oligarch from Russia, or something like that. And we've commandeered their yacht for the sake of this mission.
And the yacht's got to be traveling against. Yeah, I think.
And then he's like, we're on a yacht. What weapons do we have? And the guys, the young Amir or sheikh or oligarch's like, weapons. And he opens up a closet and it's filled with like AK-47s,
like gold-plated
M16s,
AK-47s.
All of these like super cheesy weapons that you would never find in an RPG launcher and all these things.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, I've got you covered, my friend.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Right? And and so like all these women in beautiful bikinis are just
all
like,
shooting,
what have we got
shooting like golden
into?
Uzis. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like it's the most ridiculous over the top thing, but then that's exactly what you want out of a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, I agree. I'm liking everything except where the the exchange between the tug pulling the sub accompanied by the destroyer, how that gets taken over, and why that isn't enough of an attack to justify the military budget itself. Maybe the issue is, hey, maybe the good guys are actually the original bad guys, which is, hey, we thought all you were going to do was sink our destroyer and the tug, and that was enough of a false flag. We didn't think you were going to steal the missiles.
Actually go through with it. Yeah.
We thought you were just going to, you said you were just going to shoot at the destroyer and, sink the sub so no one could have it. And that was the false flag. We thought it was an attack. We didn't think that you were actually going to take the missiles and say, we need something. Yeah.
So then that's when the Navy destroyer flips and becomes a good guy.
Say, hey, the military would never report this. Just to have this isolated incident at sea would never be reported. We need something where civilians are hurt. Otherwise, it will never be known. There needs to be public outrage, right? So the kind of the bad guys who are military, right? Who kind of thought that they were doing this, just to like increase budget because they thought like things were getting too tight. They unwittingly kind of like allowed this to happen. So it's not like this big exchange. And then they're like, oh, this is way more than we bargained for. We've got to stop this.
Right. And that's when they flip and they say, okay, we're going after the sub.
Yeah.
We're going to go after the sub. And by the way, it gives them the redemption arc to say we were bad guys. If that means that we have to go down, we'll go down saving Honolulu. Yeah.
Or even better, they were the unwitting, like someone was kind of trying to frame them, right? Like, oh, this is just going to be a training exercise.
Oh yeah. This is a hostage scenario, which turns out to be real.
Yes. Yes. So they kind of go through with it like, okay, take the keys, here it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then suddenly like, whoa, wait a second.
And then all of a sudden like a depth charge goes off and disables the ship. It doesn't sink it, but they're taking on water.
Exactly.
And so they're just like, that's what jars them to say, oh my God, this is a real deal.
Yeah, so like they thought they're just going to protect the sub and they were going to do like this kind of like onboarding exercise, right? And actually when the container ship comes, it actually disables the destroyer, right? They change they get rid of the tug and they clip the cable to the freighter container ship, right? And they're off, right? And it's just these guys who are kind of being framed for, hey, you must have been involved in this, right? And they're just left. No one knows if they're alive or not, but they're just kind of like left aboard the sinking destroyer. Yeah.
And so the destroyer's crew has to then save the ship and then B, find the submarine, however they do that, and take chase. Yeah. Whereas the tugboat guys commandeer the yacht, and then the yacht goes chasing the container ship. Yeah. And man, if you want to have more than one container ship, it could be like on a route between Honolulu and like Guam or Honolulu and the Philippines. So it looks like there's like, it's not just one ship, it's like 5 or 6 container ships. And so it's kind of like they have to kind of, you see it's like a high-speed highway chase, except it's obviously not high speed, it's not on a highway. But they're going and they're sailing between 2 different cargo container ships trying to get access to this last container ship.
What if this wasn't, you're making me think this should be like, it should be like a Panama Canal. It should be like.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Could be.
Actually, like, can we just
if they get into the Panama Canal,
can we just brainstorm that for a minute? What if it's a group that wants to actually, okay, so they've got
destroy the canal?
They want to destroy the canal.
Okay, so let's go on this tangent. If they want to destroy the canal, why? And how does that increase the U.S. military budget?
I mean, we probably...
And why would Americans get outraged at that?
We'd probably need a different premise, right?
Yeah, the premise needs to entirely change. Then it becomes less about the U.S. Navy.
Then it's more of like an economic, geopolitical type of thing. But say look, we need to take control of the canal or destroy the canal. This is how we're going to do it. There's a training exercise off of, I don't know, Colombia, whatever, Chile.
Yeah.
And we're taking the missiles and we're putting them on the container ship, because when the container ship goes...
It's being funded by a corporation that's created their own second canal. And the idea is that by destroying the Panama Canal, everyone has to go to them, making them billions of dollars in fees.
Hold on.
Yeah, I like the first premise better. This is it's an interesting premise, but in terms of military hoo-ah, I think the first premise is slightly better.
Hold on, I just have to go to maps, and I've got to see.
The Galapagos Islands are nearby.
I just have to see the geography. Well, Colombia is Colombia is connected to Panama, right? There is a drug trade there, so you've got natural bad guys. There's not really a separate path. I mean, to have a separate canal is a pretty big thing. There's not really anything. Unless they're just trying to say, like, all trade's got to go around Mexico and Mexico. We'd have to really map out what the new premise would be, but that could also be a little bit interesting, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it would be more internationally valuable.
It makes I don't want to say it makes more sense because we're getting into a gray area there, but it makes a little bit more sense. Like that's a more, like you could see like maybe why that would be done. I know this is when we're brainstorming it, but we got to brainstorm this.
We have to brainstorm the brainstorm.
I mean, what would you do for the Panama Canal? How would you even what would be the climax? You ram the container ship before it enters the Panama Canal chamber?
Yeah, in that little harbor.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you do. And then it becomes like a shell game because you don't know on which container ship the missile is on.
I don't really know the geography that well. Super interesting, though. What do you think, Pete?
I think we're better off keeping it U.S.-centric.
Yeah. I like Honolulu, but I have to say we've got a good... I mean, it also shows how hard it is to come up with something, right? I mean... We've definitely got the elevator.
No, I think we came up with something quickly, but I think it's hard to make it
timeless.
Let's say it's hard to make it films and stuff proof.
Yeah, I think that's it. This could easily be a Netflix movie. What we've got if we dumb it down a little bit and just have
100%
missiles stolen. But I mean, I think we both want something that's a little bit more timeless, realistic, and has a little bit of it's not plot simplicity. We say it's a Michael Bay film, but it's not a Michael Bay film. We still want it to have some turns in it. Yeah,
we wanted to evoke the same emotions that something like Top Gun would evoke.
Yeah,
which is to say, you've got this huge nostalgia, huge sense of patriotism, and bravado and heroism. And we say Michael Bay only because of the set pieces, but realistically, it's maybe not a Michael Bay movie.
I mean, when you talk about the first act and the second act, I mean, we can also just kind of segue them in terms of, there's a military briefing and say, look, last night at 1800 hours, decommissioned submarine was attacked off the coast of blah, blah, blah. It was in transit to be decommissioned, and we can kind of
you can skip a lot of that.
Right.
Yes.
Kind of montage. It's not really a montage, but we can show it happening and not get into all the
exposition.
Yeah, get into all the granular details. And then it's just okay, well, someone sank this thing and they stole all the missiles. Where are they now? Right? We're doing a lot. But we're doing a lot with the moon pool. How we're trying to get to the moon pool and dragging the sub is kind of the speed premise. But I think we need to go one way or another on it.
Yeah, I like the.
I like the visual of dragging the sub, But I have to say, I can't think of any single good reason why we're dragging a sub. You know?
Yeah. No, again, we can make it work. We have to just think a little bit about it.
Yeah.
That's why I like the granular approach, which is that we have to think a little bit more about it, and I think it's got a lot more visual appeal than rather than just opening on a military news wire about the ship being or commandeered.
What if the sub is just stolen? I mean,
so they just hijack the sub, and then what do they do with it?
I mean, then it's kind of like what if you just see like a tugboat puts a lasso around the sub and just drags it out, and everyone's like, "What is going on?" Yeah, because obviously, like, you don't have the keys. You need like it's a decommissioned sub, right? It's just kind of like sitting there. It's not gassed up. It's right. It still has like some nuclear core in it or some reactor or uranium or something, right? But a tugboat, just like, you can grab the keys to the tug and, you know, they overpower some guards. They grab the tug. They put a lasso around the sub and they just drag it out to sea. And there's a ambush waiting, right? Someone from the military base is going to follow. They put it underneath the freighter, and then they can't detect where that sub is anymore. It's lost. Are there any wheels to that? Too complicated?
Not too. In fact, I think the exact opposite. I think too simplistic.
Oh.
I think a little bit too simplistic. Just as, I like the idea of a heist where you see the heist rather than kind of like the end result of it.
Yeah.
I think it's,
and you're right. The fun thing about the heist is you want it to be like a really cool, well scripted, like, handoff or exchange, right?
You want to see it's what makes the Ocean's 11 movies fun to watch, is because they go into granular detail. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they pull the rug out of you, which is what we're going to do as well with this being a false flag or whatever it is. But I like that it's you see the granular detail of everything that they're doing.
All right. I think we need another episode to work this through, but we made some good progress. We haven't even talked about cast or characters.
Casting or characters. But I think what we do is, based on this, let's, work on it offline.
Yeah.
Let's do a 1-page synopsis, 3-act structure, and then we can start thinking about the characters and fan casting who would be ideal for each situation.
I totally agree with that.
I think that would be fun. And then, who knows, maybe Michael Bay, we know you're listening. Maybe you pick up the option.
We know you're listening. Pete, I think this is very good so far.
I think so too.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your creativity. We're still not there, but we're kind of making progress.
Yeah,
we're almost
not
built
our
in a day.
normal films and stuff episode. Let's say more stuff, but film related.
Indeed, film related. Everyone, thanks for listening. And please, we would love to hear some of your ideas as well.
Yeah, tell us what you think would work. Help us fill in some of these plot holes that we can see. I think that, we can make something wonderful together. Aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com.
Aloha.
Or tweet at us at F&S Podcast.
Yep, we need some good ideas for Ve55el.
Or even if you can't come up with a good plot, no problem. Tell us what you think is a better title.
I agree. Title is also helpful.
We can work backwards through that.
All right. Everyone, thank you for listening. Pete, thank you for your time.
Thank you again, Ethan. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.